Hello, welcome everyone. This is Tuesday again, and this means we're coming to you with another episode of Disruption Talks. I am Agata. I am UX practice expert here at Netguru, and I'm very excited and also just a little bit stressed because it is my first time hosting. But I'm very, very happy since this is an episode that I think will be very close to my heart, as I will be talking with very special guests from N26, one of the fastest growing fintech startups in Europe. And we're going to talk about data-driven design and how it's mixed with human psychology. So please welcome Jolene Tan-Davidovic, a lead user researcher, and Emanuel Milicević, who is a lead product designer at N26. Hi, guys. So if I could ask you to maybe elaborate first a little bit on your backgrounds, on your roles, just to start with.
Sure. Good morning. Super happy to be here. So Emanuel Milicević. So I'm currently the lead user researcher at N26. Together with Emanuel, we work in the account opening business unit. So we take care of the website and the whole account opening process. I've been in research for more than 10 years now. I actually started as an academic researcher, studying psychology and behavioral science, how people make decisions. And then I made the switch to UX some years ago. One of the best decisions I've ever made.
Cool.
Cool. Yeah. Hi, everyone. Really happy to be here and to share the stage with Jolene and Agatha. Yeah, a little bit about myself. I've been doing, I believe, for a few years this work already. I've been working in an agency for 4.5 years. I had experience with a lot of different industries, with a lot of different project sizes, from small startups to big tech giants. And yeah, I think the good part of this, me partnering with Jolene in N26, is that I also love or I also read a lot about technology and psychology and about how people behave, how we can help them to achieve things with technology, and how can we make their lives better. So yeah, I mean, and then after this agency work, I moved to N26. As Jolene mentioned, we are working currently together with making onboarding and sign-up experience as smooth as possible, with all the legal requirements that we need to fulfill, which is always challenging. But yeah, it wouldn't be exciting if it's not challenging. Yeah.
Great. It's really nice to hear you both have background or interest in psychology. I am a social psychologist myself, so my background is from academia and academic researcher, and then I switched to UX as well, which also is the best decision of my life and my career. So I think we're on the same page here. That's really cool. And Emanuel, on your LinkedIn, you write that your favorite part of the process is teamwork, sacrificial concepts, and launch day celebration. That sounds really interesting. So if you could maybe tell us something more about that.
Yeah. I think in my early ages, I was doing a lot of sports, and I was mostly doing team sports, and this is one of the things that stick with me, and I really enjoy, exchanging knowledge and working within the team. And by saying this, I really don't think we can build any product by ourselves, as a designer or as a researcher or as an engineer or whatever domain is, because we need to collaborate and get input from everybody. And I really like when I'm in the room with people, and it can be like user, it can be design, business, engineering, data, customer support, marketing. They all have different views, and this is actually where I also learn the most. And yeah, I really enjoy working in team. And sacrificial concepts, I like to call this phase is like reality check. In our minds, in our screens, in our phones, beta versions, everything looks ideal, and then when you put it in front of the user, yeah, sometimes it hurts. But it's good. It's good that we know what can we improve, and at the end of the day we get the best results. And I like this world sacrificial concept, because when we are using this, we are on the same page of that this is just for the purpose of getting us to know better how to create this product for our users. It's almost everyone in the room very clear that this is not the end product, and that we're going to learn from this. So I think Jolene can also add on top of that. She also likes sacrificial concepts.
Yeah, I mean, Emmanuel said, I think this is like a great way to get data and to get people to, be a little bit crazy with their ideas and be a bit more innovative, because you know that this is not going to be the end product, so you don't have to be too attached to it. So, and then, doing it early on during the phase really allows you to get data very quickly and help you to define your design direction. So, like, I think on our website, we did a redesign of the navigation. And we explored, different places to put the menu button, knowing that this is not going to be the final design, but we wanted to, kind of push the idea a little bit, just to explore, and there's always a chance that it might work out. And so I really like that. It really accelerates innovation. It gives a safe space for you to innovate and test crazy ideas. And my favorite.
All right. So do you encourage designers to go wild and to experiment, and then to really try to push those boundaries?
Yeah, especially in the early part of the project, I think that's great. Like, sometimes just push the ideas a little bit to the extreme, so then you can get feedback on it and use that to kind of narrow down on your final direction at the end.
And in your experience, are designers eager to do that, or do they need encouragement really, or is it something that they're very happy to really do and explore?
I think you just opened the door. That's my experience.
Go.
It's also different from designer to designer. If you have someone who is with this kind of mindset, willing to break the rules, I would say sometimes, they are more likely to jump into this train of being really going from one direction to second, and then etc. And there's also designers that feel most comfortable being within the scope of what we were talking about. But that's why we are here as senior roles, to give them push in the back and say, yes, it's totally fine to go to extremes, and to challenge yourself and the company itself, right?
All right. So I wanted to ask you, Em, about a day in life of a lead product designer at N26, but I would like to narrow this question a little bit with this twist that we just mentioned. So, a day in life of a lead product designer who encourages this sort of design bravery. How do you incorporate that in your work? How do you make that happen?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, because you have a lot of different personalities in the team, so you really need to get to know every person. Someone responds to really telling them that they cannot do something, and they really want to show you they can do it. Someone really responds to being supportive, but there is one thing that it always works for me, is asking them a lot of questions and not giving the answers. And I think when you're asking the right question as a leader, you're also challenging yourself to not tell the answer right away. And you're also challenging them to think beyond what they currently know. And my personal, the best approach to really helping people go beyond their limits is really asking them questions, and then they will usually navigate by themselves into this area of unknown and exploration.
All right. So if we would get a little big brother kind of peek into your day at work, what would we see?
You would see a lot of meetings.
Okay.
And me asking a lot of questions, sometimes even talking a lot, because I usually like to over explain things rather than not being understood correctly. But I think if you would have a big brother, I think we could split this into probably syncing with cross-functional teams, hiring and onboarding people, doing review sessions, design or research, and really doing some team activities. Because as a lead designer, you need to be able to look this from high level, and at the points we also need to go into zoom in perspective on tactical level. So yeah, with cross-functional teams, we also need to make sure that everything is aligned. So every week we have a meeting with Jolene and myself with a lot of stakeholders to figure out, are we on the track of the current plan? Do we need to deprioritize something, prioritize something else? Yeah, we also constantly advocating on these meetings for user, for our UX team. And yeah, lately we are hiring a lot, and therefore we also, when you hire, you need to invest a lot of time, and we also, when we hire people, when they need to join the company, we also need to invest time to onboard them, to prepare for their onboarding. So yeah, those two things would be some things that I spend the most time now. And then, of course, we have those design review sessions where we share the work. This could be either within we call this domain. So this domain consists of few teams. So it's usually a couple of designers, a couple of user researchers. And yeah, then we basically share the work. We challenge each other. We get into discussions. And we figured out ways of improving stuff together. And at the end, which is my favorite part, is usually team activities where we try to go away from the work talk, and try to get to know each other, try to get a little bit into personal life. Of course, depends on how people, if people are open and if this is in their comfort zone, because yeah, I personally believe that definitely you need to design this space for people to have time to just make fun, just play, just talk about random things, just, I don't know, share clips from YouTube, from any links that are interested. So yeah, this would be most of my time currently. And yeah, I think we can even go deeper later if you go with the chat.
Sure. If we have time, I'll gladly listen about some fun activities you do as team building, especially in remote times, because I think we often find this challenging. But right now I'd like to switch to Jolene a little bit and hear a bit about the researcher's perspective at N26, and especially maybe following a little bit this day in life theme. But how do you cooperate with designers to make research and design work together effectively?
Yeah. I think Emanuel ended with team activities. I think I'll start with that because I think that's super important. Really establishing this relationship and this trust and being part of the same team as designers. I think it's the key to the cooperation. So it's not like, oh, I'm a researcher, you're a designer. It's not like that. We are part of the same UX team, and our goal is to improve the UX. There are no clear boundaries necessarily in our work. We're just working towards the same thing. And so I think that for us, we work within, so me and Emanuel, we're in this account opening team, the UX team, and we start our days with just telling each other what we're working on. A very quick stand up on Slack. And this way, we can jump in, oh, what are you working on? That's interesting. Can I be involved? That really encourages that. Or like, oh, I know something about that. Maybe I can share. And this way, our Slack channel and just becomes another mode of communication, especially important now when everybody is remote, that I feel like, I feel free to share, whatever research or something comes to my mind related to some projects, and the other designers in the team also feel free to share work in progress stuff, and I can kind of jump in async. I think this is especially important nowadays because, as Emanuel was saying, that we are in a lot of meetings, and sometimes it's hard to really carve out. Ideally, we would like to carve out like hours in a week to really have this feedback and jamming session. But then that's not always possible. But having and really investing in this open channel in Slack where we can share, we can continue conversations from meetings, even like, hours after the meeting is over, really, I think, enables that smooth communication.
All right. All right. So what do you think is, other than the smooth communication and really being up to date, if you would name 3 things that make research, design, collaboration successful,
right?
What would they be in your opinion?
I think the first one is this culture that user research is a team sport. So user researcher is not something that sits within the user researcher's world. It's something that is distributed in the entire company. And so everybody speaks the same language about our users. And so, and everybody has access to users and customers. Of course, we need great tooling and great processes. And so therefore our jobs as a user researcher, and that's how I think a lot of us see our jobs, is really just being enablers, enabling everybody to have access to the user needs, access to the users if they want to, and to support them with best methodology, the support on methodology, support them with tools, and we will provide advice. I think that's a very big part. So this culture that user research is a team sport, I think it's a very big part. I think let's see, you mentioned 3 things. I would say that the other thing is this idea of a psychological safety. When we feel psychologically safe with each other, then this creates a great environment for feedback. And so, if I give feedback about, a design, or somebody gives me feedback about research that I've done, it's going to be taken very, very constructively, because you understand, we're all safe here. We're all trying to grow, all trying to help each other, and we're going to move forward. So, in that sense, I think design and research is not unique. I think psychological safety is one of those things that really empowers a lot of different teams. Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, I think that's
okay. We can leave it at that. That's already been quite some good points. So maybe let's now zoom out a little bit and change the lens and look at N26. And if you would think of the North Star for N26 design, what would that be? What are the common values that you share, the principles, guidelines, beliefs? What's the picture that we would see there?
Yeah, I think that's always an interesting question. And at N26, we really try to, create those innovative and desirable experiences. And what we've written in our values or mission and vision is what we really want to do this, by engaging with people, by listening to people. This is why research has such an important role. And, all those tools, methods, and strategies that we are using them to create value for users and for the business also, because it's a very important stakeholder. And yeah, I would say this would be in general some kind of North Star from design team. But if we're talking about some principles, we are working in a very broad landscape in terms of really landscape, like Europe, US. In Europe also different kind of languages, different kind of countries, different kind of cultures, and we believe on multiple levels, from macro level to micro level, that one size does not fit all. So you can see this by our offer, product offer. You can see this by, I don't know, as I said, on some levels is you can choose different languages for your app. You can even be in Spain, but you don't know how to speak Spanish, so you will open account with English language. Or I don't know, it can also be that, for example, our product Spaces, some people will use Spaces for saving money with their partners for the trip. Some people will use for the, I don't know, for the if they are dog owners, they will save money for going to the vet or buying some stuff for the dog. So on all of those levels, we do see this variety of users that we are trying to serve, and we definitely believe that one size does not fit all. If I would need to go further, this is definitely what we talked about previously, is that research definitely informs decisions. So we would not be able to know all those things about our users, all those things about our markets, if we don't do research. And for me personally, research is something that's not just one stage in the process, it's literally all the way. And in this research, you can talk with data, and this is research to get the data. You can talk with users, you get the data from the users. You will talk with customer support, you will get their feedback. And yeah, this is why this is why we like to use this term, research informs decisions, because we get all this data and then we figure out how we're going to proceed. And one thing that is very important, I didn't mention it at the beginning, but it's definitely security and clarity. So I like to use this term that security and clarity comes first. And in banking world, this is even more emphasized. So you trust us with your money, and we all know how this is a sensitive topic. You can go from communicating or not communicating your salary with your friends, or communicating your total wealth. So those are very sensitive topics. And we as N26, as a bank, that we, let's say, allow you to store the money and you are able to pay and do some basic stuff, we really need to make sure that you have all the information you need, and that this information, including amount of money and all other private informations, are secure. And yeah, at the end of the principles journey, we like to really try to make this seamless, holistic experience. So whether you are having this touch point with, I don't know, our banner on the outside in front of your building, or if you are seeing this ad that we had, I don't know, with Gorilla the other week, or if you're opening a bank account with us in our sign up and KYC flow, or if you're using us for 2-3 years already, like every touch point needs to feel and it needs to communicate as N26. So with this whole mission, we also follow those principles. And yeah, I think this is as a package our North Star overall. I don't know if Jolene maybe has something else to add.
Yeah, I think Emanuel described it very well, and I guess I would just add a little bit about how I think in N26 our goal is that this is a bank that you love. This is a bank that when you're looking forward to opening the app, this is not going to give you stress. This is something that fits into your life and enables you to live the best life that you could have. And I think we're still some ways from that, but that is our North Star, and that's where we're trying to go.
All right. And you mentioned security and clarity, but then you also mentioned data-driven design, and user research is, of course, very prominent. And I have several follow-up questions in my head. But one I'm going to lead with maybe is about designing for or with users, or with data that you get from users, while not invading their privacy too much. So how do you combine making your users feel safe and secure, and working with sensitive, in a sensitive field, with user research? Like, what kind of challenges do you see there? How do you overcome them? I've conducted myself a lot of research in different sensitive fields, like medical, for example, and I know it always comes with a set of workarounds you have to do, or nifty tricks to make your users feel comfortable sharing their information. So what's yours?
Yeah. I think that for us, this is certainly super important. Money is a sensitive topic. I think people have different degrees of willingness to share about their finances. I think that for us, one of the things that we try to do is kind of lead into it in our sessions. So we start small, we talk about more broader topics, and to build this sense of trust before diving into the gory details, if you have it.
Yes.
But of course, at the same time, we are also always emphasizing that please feel free not to answer if you don't want to. It's perfectly okay to say I don't know, or I prefer not to answer. And I feel like by really emphasizing this throughout, even in the easier, less private questions, and then just kind of repeating it even in the more personal questions, this creates, I think, a space for our users or the people that we're interviewing to feel comfortable sharing or not sharing. And I think so far that has been our strategy, and I think so far it's worked. Yeah.
All right. And when you talk about data-driven design, my assumption in the back of my head, correct me if I'm wrong, is that you do collect some data on your website, on your apps, in your app. And are you what is the level of transparency with your users about that? How much are they aware what is being collected and what is being done with it? What's your approach there? You're willing to share?
Right. I mean, we do. I think that we definitely don't share our data with third parties, and so everything is really meant to improve the workings and improve the app, and that information is shared at the beginning of sign up. So I mean, from that perspective, I think it is transparent, and we are sharing. That we are not misusing their data and not sharing it and giving it to third parties, because I think that could be very sensitive.
Have you? Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I just want to mention that you can also see that more and more Apple and Google are sharing this data or this information about how companies are collecting data on their app store. So yeah, this is totally full transparency from them, because we also would like to share this transparency with the user. And this is always a constant battle between how to make seamless onboarding experience or whatever product you have by having, let's say, less steps, less things to read, but also how to provide them really good necessary information. And yeah, we try to use this approach of snack, bite, and meal, what we call, which is you provide enough essential information for the user at the flow on the screen. If they really want to know more, they can easily reach out to the next screen where they will know even more. And if they're really, really interested into reading even more, we provide them with this link or this ability to read more. So yeah, we definitely try to use this approach, and it's challenging, especially because we are a bank. We are very regulated heavily, and yeah, we try the best what we can for now.
All right. Okay. And another follow-up question I had, and this is both about the research and the design in the company. I'm going to focus on the research first. You mentioned that research is, although they come together, right? But that research is embedded in your culture. It's all over the company, that you speak the common language. And I wonder, has it been like this from the start, or like was it like a principle from the start, or was it something you had to work towards to achieve?
Yeah. I think for sure there was big seeds of it in the beginning. Our founder is very a big champion of the UX, and when he built the early design team, he, I think, hired people who were big champions of UX. I think a lot of our early founders of the design team were from IDEO. So for sure, I think that was present in the beginning. But having that seed, I think that there was still a lot of effort to grow that seed into this thing that really involves the entire culture of the company. And I think that one of the things that we do well, I think, is directing not just our research skills outside to our users and our customers, but also directing it inwards to really understand the business, to understand our stakeholders, to understand what are the challenges and pain points of our external and internal stakeholders, if you want to call it that. And so, I think by repeating and doing that, this allows us to really steadily conduct research that that collects insights that can really solve the pain points of our customers, but also for us to deliver insights and for us to share the insights in a way that can promote great user-centered decision making within the company. Sometimes it's about carving space for processes or for rituals, or sometimes it's just about being at the right place and the right time and making sure that it's available. So I would say that it was definitely present in the beginning, but it's really supported over a track record, over practice again and again, and with each new person joining the companies, this idea and that this mentality is really shared. Yeah.
All right. So if we would speak a little about a bit more about this impact of design and design research on the company itself, how, as a designer, how do you facilitate those changes within the organization? Like, what kind of impact you have? And maybe, Em, this is more for you, this question.
Yeah, I think this is always a big challenge, and in this, I always like to use this. You really need to read the room. In this case, you need to read the company. You need to read the people that you're working with, and you need to understand how they perceive user experience, design, research, UX, copywriting as a discipline, and how do they see this will benefit in some cases overall company, but in some cases, if you are a product manager, how this will benefit the specific product. If you are engineer, how this will benefit implementation, and so on. So I think what I really like to focus is ways of working. So you really try to understand how we work together. And I'm going back to this teamwork that I really love. And there are a lot of activities, a lot of workshops that you can facilitate as designer, as a researcher, as UX person, that could really get you on the, let's say, all on the same page. And one of my favorite is a delegation poker activity, where you really understand when and how people would like to be involved. So sometimes, I don't know, engineering manager likes to be involved heavily in discovery phase to really understand what we are building, while, I don't know, maybe someone who works on data, they really just want to be informed about what is the decision. So there are different approaches, but we really need to make sure that how we connect cross-functionally, and how do we go from discovery to delivery. And along this journey, you as a designer, as a researcher, as a UX person, you really need to make sure that you are educating people along the way, while really understanding their motivations and their needs also. And yeah, this is why it's we have double role. You need to understand users, you need to understand your stakeholders and your peers. But yeah, this is a benefit or maybe the biggest challenge for being a designer and researcher. And I would also like to add here is that when you enter the company, it can be either a startup, really starting from scratch, or it can be a very well-established company. People have their own ways of working already. They either bring them from some company or they already have them in this company. So if we're going back to psychology, we as a human beings, we don't like changes, right? When we go out of our comfort zone, we really have this cognitive load, and we are rejecting everything that is not within our comfort zone. And this is why you also need to use this approach and really be mindful and doing those changes gradually and steadily. And if you manage to create great ways of working within your team and educate your team how UX works, then those people will actually be advocates for you when they have meetings with only PMs, only engineers and stuff like that. So yeah, it's I think as with projects, building or impacting organization as designer, as researcher, you also need to have long-term strategy and you have small tactical movements. So yeah, I think this would be my approach and my advice to anyone who's struggling with similar challenges. And really be patient.
I think I might want to challenge you here a little bit,
Okay.
because of course, as human beings, we do not like change, and we designers are in companies with different stakeholders inside and outside of our companies, and those stakeholders, they do not like changes that much either, and they're very comfortable in their comfort zones with their visions or products or solutions or processes that they're at this moment. And then here we are, eager, enthusiastic designers and researchers with data to prove our points. And then we also, as leaders, encourage other designers to, step out of the comfort zone, look out of the box, outside of the box, put that button there where it doesn't belong, and let's see what happens. And now with this kind of approach, we need to meet those stakeholders who are in their comfort zones, and then we need to have a conversation. So how do you make sure that those conversations are fruitful and successful? I see a clash there, and I've experienced this clash a lot at my work. So how do you deal with that?
Jolene, should I start?
Sure, and then I can jump in maybe.
Yeah, I think my biggest learning is that it's the same as you go to live in a different country. If you learn the language, it will be the easier for you. So for me, I would like to use this analogy also for business. So I see a lot of designers really saying to me, but I don't want to learn about business, or I don't want to learn about strategy, or I don't want to, I don't know what is KPI, OKR, or some other MAU and all those, abbreviations. And in this case, I think you really need to make sure to read the room again and see what is important for each of those each of that stakeholder. And if you're talking about the business, you definitely need to make sure that you understand business language, and you don't need to have like MBA or whatever. You can just do like business 101 or implementation to understand how engineering things how engineering works and how things are being implemented. And when you understand the language, then you can translate this output to what is important for them. Unfortunately, it's not the other way around. They will not ask us to, like how do you say this on design or research term or whatever, because we always need to translate this either into, how this output will influence the company itself. So I usually don't like to talk about buttons on meetings with stakeholders. I usually like to talk about, this is the solution, this is what we know, this is what we are trying to achieve, and always with hypothesis, like we believe that this is going to happen, and by doing this we're going to influence or impact overall business strategy. Sometimes you can say numbers, sometimes you can say approximately, but business language is also, in my opinion, trying to do the best guess what's going to happen in the next year or so. And you could see that if you planned at the end of 2019 something for 2020, this definitely changed for some people for better, so unfortunately for some people for worse. So when you're in this room and trying to convince stakeholders about your design, I would really avoid talking about buttons and everything else. Of course, when you're talking with designers and researchers, we can go in a detailed level and try to figure out, like, okay, if we move this button here, will we increase the conversion, or will the user have a more clear overview. But at the end of the day, when you're in meeting with stakeholders, at the end of the day, you probably need to talk numbers and business language, which is also my answer or my favorite question during the interview. So here's a tip.
Yeah. And Jolene, you wanted to add something, yeah?
Yeah, I would add on that, I think that this is not I feel like, this whole thing is a process and is a movement about injecting this UX mentality into teams and into processes. I think it's not something that can and should be done overnight. This is something that can start bit by bit. And one way that I have tried to do this is, of course, as Emanuel said, really understanding the business and really establishing a relationship with the stakeholders. Everybody knows that we are all working towards the same goal. Achieving OKRs and delivering a fantastic experience. There is no clash because we all have the same goal. But then sometimes it comes down to, okay, how are we going to get there? And different people may have different perspectives on what's the best way. And I always try to find the helpers, or try to find the allies, try to find people within the team that are secret champions of UX, or they are champions of UX and they just didn't know it. We just need to give them the name or help them to recognize it, and then to use this to change the ways of working. And I would say that sometimes these allies don't come from your traditional places. It's not like, oh, the other product designer is going to be your ally. I mean, for sure. But sometimes the most powerful allies, I think, are a little bit hidden. For example, lately, I had a chat with one of our engineering managers, and I realized, wow, he's he speaks the language of UX. And he's a huge champion of UX, and he has been pushing for UX in these other meetings that I didn't know was happening. And even like, people who worked with quantitative data, the analysts, I've had, always pleasantly surprised when a lot of, analysts come to me and like, yeah, my data cannot explain why. Help me. And so, really finding these, firstly, really understanding this is a movement. This has to happen gradually, bit by bit, be it through one project, be it through one person, be it through one team. And this has to move organically. And this is not something that we should be too impatient about. As long as we are constantly moving and things are constantly growing, I think that that's the goal. I think that sometimes being a little bit impatient or expecting, okay, I'm here, I have all the great arguments, this is totally how we should do it. This backfire a little.
Yeah.
But seeing it as a more gradual process may help.
Yeah, and I would just like to add on top of this, what Jolene mentioned, that you probably always in each team have some secret advocate for UX. I also noticed this last week, to be honest. We were doing product manager interviews, and we were interviewing like 2 engineers and myself. It was interview in the later stages, and I was writing down the questions, what I really want to ask, and this colleague engineering, iOS engineer, he was really asking all the questions before me that I wanted to ask about the user, about how we will going to improve things from user perspective. And yeah, I mean, after that, I figured out, okay, we have someone who can really advocate for the user when we are not there. And yeah, I think you're also looking for those people who are going to advocate, and that they are not designer or researcher, right?
Yeah. All right. And I saw we have some comments from the audience and questions. And one of the questions is very much in line with my personal interests, as I've joined Netguru quite recently. I think it's been a little over 6 months right now, and I'm learning so much in the role of UX practice expert. So I wonder, what are the things you had to learn along your journey to lead product designer or user research lead?
So I just want to quickly double check. Is it to unlearn or to learn?
To unlearn. Oh, I missed it.
tricky one.
Misread that. That's even more interesting. What did you have to unlearn? Oh yeah, I had to unlearn a lot.
Yeah, that's a good one. I personally need to maybe not unlearn, but to be comfortable not knowing anything, because when you're working in an agency, you usually work with one additional designer and you know the whole product that you're building. And yeah, in this case, I really need to be comfortable not knowing what's going on this tab, what's going on this tab, what is the strategy of this part, what is the strategy of this part. So yeah, this is the thing that I had challenges with.
Yeah. And then I think for myself, I think there are two things. One, so I was, for my previous role, I was a little bit obsessed with efficiency. I was thinking, okay, what's the best use of my time and, best use of the company's time and, always thinking, okay, if something can be done with one person, why do you need 6 people to be involved and everything? And I had to unlearn that. And I had to really understand that getting a lot of people, getting more people involved, getting the important people involved in a particular work, be it a research project or some decision, really enables everybody to own the decision and really makes it more likely that this decision will actually follow through to have some impact. And that is, I think, the power of workshops. I would say that is something that I've learned. This ability for workshops to really put people together, come together, share their thoughts in a very democratic fashion, in a very respectful fashion, and then come together again to make the decision. So when I first started, I was like, wow, this is a lot of time spent on workshops. Isn't it better one person makes a decision and it's done? And I realized, no, actually, that's really not a good way. It's a much better way that everybody comes together. We own the decision together. We share all our information so that nothing is left unsaid, and then we can, move forward with that in mind. So that's one of the things I had to unlearn and learn.
Yeah, the comment you said about workshops, one of the things that happen sometimes in companies that I've experienced as a researcher was this statement that, but why do you need user research? Aren't you a designer? You should know how to do that, right? I mean, why do you need users? You're the expert. Just do it. So that's a little bit in line with that, and that there's some convincing happening always there. Yeah. But one of the things I needed to unlearn was that a perfect human-centered design process just exists on paper and it never happens. And we need to be very flexible. And that would lead me to a question from the audience again. It seems that everybody is doing it right now. All the banks and fintechs are doing user-centered design. So how do we know if somebody's actually doing it or just saying it as a buzzword? How do you tell the difference?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. Yeah, and thank you for the question. It's always good to challenge my mind. So, so as I'm talking from my personal perspective, and you also mentioned that I believe that everyone is doing it. It just depends on what's the maturity level. We spoke before about how to convince people about design and research importance in the company. So I don't think that anyone who is speaking about this is really not doing this. Maybe they are doing it on a different level. I mean, at the end of the day, people or companies that are doing is good are really very successful. So this could be one thing to track. And the second thing that you can also look what kind of roles are being hired for this company. This can also talk about maturity of UX or human-centered design in the company. And overall, if you communicate with people from those companies, you can really hear or see how they are practicing this human-centered design. But yeah, just the main key point, I think people are using this word, yes, and I really think that every company is trying to do it, but on a certain different level, and this is also a matter of maturity of design and research in the company.
Yeah, I understand. Sure.
I don't know if Jolene
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think, in the context of, I think when you're looking for jobs or an application process, I mean, I think that it should always be a two-way conversation. So if the employer or whoever's hiring is trying to identify if you're a human-centered designer, and then, you should also be evaluating if the company is has a human-centered culture. And so I think that two-way conversation and sometimes really helps, and it could really work in your favor if it's really a human-centered organization. Then you'll be like, oh yes, I'm very happy that you care about this and you're asking me this.
Yes.
It could really work. Yeah.
We are slowly approaching the end. We still have a couple more minutes and quite some questions. I found two that are especially interesting, I think. One, do you see differences in designing for B2C versus B2B audiences? Like what kind of differences or what key differences do you see when designing for different audiences?
Yeah, that's a good one. I'm just trying to recall when I was designing for B2B before. I mean, the B2B, the biggest challenge is that usually for B2B, the business itself is not the user. The user is the person who will use this product at the end of the day. So you really need to be able to understand how to get to those users. And then, of course, it depends. Is it like some kind of niche B2B or it's maybe something more general? With business to customer, you always have personas, and you can really go and look for those users that's gonna use your end product. Like on top of my mind, this would be the biggest difference. So
yeah.
But then I would imagine that even designing for B2B, like you said, in the end, there's a user, a person, a human being using this. So it's a maybe a different kind of customer paying, but still a human being using, right?
Yeah, but it's a challenge because sometimes people who are paying or deciding that they're gonna pay for the product might never use this product, or they just approving this product. So it's from the company to company. I cannot say it's always the same, but some companies maybe do a little bit more research about this product and what does our employees want, and some people maybe just think that this product is best fit for our financial state, and the benefit will be that we're gonna have, I don't know, the whole package in this one product. But then what happens if end users are not satisfied, or what if increases or time or consumption of this product, and it should be the opposite. So this is the biggest challenge that I see. Decision makers.
I would add that I think that when it comes to B2B, you really have to understand the decision-making culture in those companies, and find a way to cluster the different kinds of companies and cluster the different kinds of cultures. Because like Emanuel said, the decision maker and the end users often two different people, and different companies have different kind of concerns and ways of making decisions. And if, let's say, you are designing and trying to close a sale or something, you need to be able to understand how those decisions are made, and in order to influence them, or in order to address those concerns as well. So I would say that the challenge really comes from really having to build a little bit more complex picture of who you're designing for versus B2C.
Yeah. All right. So I've left one of the very interesting questions for the very end, and I feel like we could be talking for another 2 or 3 hours, and I definitely didn't go over the list of questions I had for you. I barely scratched the surface, but it's been very interesting. So you both have a long experience in UX research design, and you are in the lead roles right now. So being where you are in your careers, how do you still professionally grow? What is it that you do to grow professionally? What works best for you?
Wow, I mean, there's so much more to grow. It's like, I think, I feel like I've barely scratched the surface, personally. And I think that for myself, one of the biggest areas that I would like to go is how to be a better leader, how to really enable teams, and how to be a better champion of UX. And this means really understanding the business, understanding the processes, and to some extent understanding Agile too, because Agile is designed for developers, and how can Agile really work for UX as well. And I think along the way, what is really important is being persuasive, learning how to be persuasive, learning how to craft messages and build this movement behind it. And one thing I've learned, and then it feels like it's a closed loop, which is what Emanuel said, being persuasive is really about knowing how to ask questions. And I feel like, asking questions. I know that. I'm a researcher. So I think all this kind of goes together for me, but still lots to learn. Yeah, lots of more mistakes to make.
Cool, thank you. And then for you?
Yeah, I definitely agree with Jolene. If I want to give maybe more answer that would help someone to think about their development, I really like to use those skill metrics or spider webs, whatever you like to call them. And you try to see like what do you want to, where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years, and what kind of skills now, in which level it usually goes from, I don't know, from 0 to 7, and then each level means something else. And you try to pinpoint what do you want to improve in the next year or 2 years, and then try to set yourself some kind of deadlines. But to be honest, if you start going from individual contributor role to more leadership management role, it all comes down to what Jolene said, like reading the room, trying to work actually on what people called, like soft skills, but I think they're actually, very hard to learn. You really need to, being able to understand everyone, to empathize, to really connect and see how you can serve designers and researchers that you are leading. And at the other end point, you also need to be able to understand business. So yeah, I think I'm also, as Jolene, I think I still have a lot of things to learn, and sometimes I don't have enough time to cover all those things. But I think this is good. When you have backlog, is good. When the backlog is empty, then you have a problem.
Or maybe you're a good leader then, and everything is distributed where it should be.
Yeah, that would be good. But yeah, we always need it. So yeah, to be on point, just make a list, and there's always something new to learn. Just focus on things that you think will have the biggest impact for your growth in the next 6 months to 1 year.
Great. Thank you very much. It's really been a pleasure, and hopefully one day we'll get a chance to dig deeper into some of the topics that we couldn't touch upon today. So with that in mind, I can say goodbye. Thank you, audience, for your wonderful questions, and then for watching us. And see you next Tuesday.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just a quick note. I set some tips for interviews, but yeah, we have a lot of open roles, research, design, all kind of levels. So feel free to reach out. And yeah, it's been a pleasure to talk with you, and I hope we managed to share some knowledge or maybe even wisdom. Jolene maybe more than myself. So yeah.
Yeah, Emanuel is always very kind. Thank you. And yeah, we're hiring, so please contact us.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Thank you again for the invite.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.